Hello YouTube friends. We finally arrived at this day, the day where we take the papers out of the back of Agnes's quilt. So it almost feels like something's finished, but it really hasn't, because this is the finish of this part, but then we've got all the decisions to make about the next part. So we'll talk about those now. So I've just given the quilt a good pressing. And I've measured it. I'll leave all the dimensions and everything in the description below. And I've measured it because I want to order the backing for this quilt now. I've been looking at lots of different backings, and also I've got to choose what kind of wadding I might use for it, or batting. Now, a lot of people ask me before we even get to the papers what I'm going to do about the edges of the quilt. So the edges are where the hexagons meet together, like so, and on this edge they look like that, and on this edge they look like that. And so how I'm going to deal with that, I mean, I could make half hexes and sew them into here, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to fold that hexagon over and stitch my fabric to that edge there, and I'm going to put a border on here as well, so that there'll be a border framing the whole thing. So when I take the papers out, I'm going to leave all the edge papers in, so that it keeps the open edges of the unsewn hexagons, they stay within their templates. So, but all the ones that are enclosed, beautifully enclosed like this, they can all come out now. And so what I've got here, this is the only kit I need, is a little unpicker. I've got my scissors in case things get a bit stubborn. So I've got a pot to put the threads in, and a basket to put the papers in when they come out, and they'll collect together in there. And this is going to take me quite a long time. And so, but the reason why I leave the papers in, people ask me that one all the time. Why don't you take the papers out as you're going along? This whole piece, I've explained this before, has got such a structure to it now, so that none of the stitches are pulling on the other stitches, because they are all of equal weight. And once I take the papers out of here, then there's a strain on the stitches until it starts to be in the quilt sandwich and quilted. So you'll see what I'm going to do there. So I've got a cup of tea on a little table beside me here, and I've got my unpicker and my specs. Now I'm just going to start anywhere. As long as I leave all the edge ones in, I can start anywhere, but I'm going to do it systematically. I'll start in the middle and work outwards, and it's really simple. The way that I've basted these hexagons means that I loosen the first couple of stitches, and like that, and then pull out the thread, and then I just get my finger underneath it, and out comes the hexagon, like so. And I'll put those in there. And we've started. So I'm just going to keep going. I just need to take out maybe 2 stitches. And you can see that this quilt's been on the go for a couple of years. And so these hexagons, and it's been on and off the board, it's been folded up, it's been put away, and so these paper hexagons are pretty crumply. You can also see, if you look carefully, that sometimes I've clipped them when I've been sewing them together, so the ends not, I mean mostly not, but you know, I've clipped the edge of a few of them. So people say, can you use the hexagons again? And you can, but I'm not going to. These ones are a little bit tatty, so I won't be using them again. And I am going to go quite systematically with this, because otherwise I might miss one. It'll be fairly obvious if I do miss one. And I really like taking the papers out, because you see all the little pages from the Beano book that I've used, or whatever children's book that I've used. So that's probably my whole day sorted out now, and I've been really looking forward to this day because it's exactly the kind of thing I love to do. A bit of a production line. So this one's a bit stuck. There it is, it just needs pulling. I'll put the threads in the glass jar and we'll see how many of those we get. Alright, I'm just going to keep going. For a long, long time. I've been trying to decide what kind of quilt wadding to use for this, because once the papers are out it will just have the same kind of drape as any quilted quilt top. You know, it's not going to be very strong, and so I'm working out whether or not how much drape I want this to have. I think I want it to be have quite a soft drape, so it's not too stiff. I mean, hand quilting it will give it a softer drape as well. And that's the other thing that I'm trying to work out, is how I'm going to hand quilt this. Because that's going to be the next task, is deciding how to quilt it. I've got some ideas and thoughts about what backing fabric to choose. I was looking at some this morning. There's so much choice, isn't there? So many to choose from. But I think I've just about decided. I think you'll like the backing fabric I've chosen. Wadding though, what kind of wadding? I've got cotton and bamboo. I've already got some of that. I've also got silk. I tend to keep the silk for when I sew Liberty. When I make Liberty quilts, I put silk wadding in those because I think they absolutely deserve to have the very, very best when I use Liberty fabric for quilts. So I think I might use the cotton and bamboo because that gives a lovely drape. It's quite thin. This last year, sometimes you forget the one you've just done. There it is. This last year, 2021, I made 5 commission quilts, and for each one I chose a different wadding to suit the quilt and also to try them out. So one of them was wool, and that was lovely to work with, quite bouncy. I did one that was made from recycled bottles, which was an interesting one to choose. One of them was a pajagi quilt, so it didn't need any wadding, so that was only 4 that needed wadding. One of them I used my favourite cotton and bamboo, which is my go-to. I love that one. I've always got a bolt of that in the house. So that was that all of them? Oh, and then the last one I chose was a silk blend, and that was a lovely wadding. It was quite thin and had a really, really nice drape to it. So that's an option. I could choose that. This one's a bit stuck. Sometimes they get caught in the stitching, but they only need a bit more of a tug than the other ones. How many hexagons do you think there are in this quilt? I was going to do a sort of a guessing thing, but as soon as one person has guessed and I've told them they're right, then, you know, you'll know, won't you? I counted them up. I know exactly how many there are. Have a think, and at the very end of this video I'll tell you. So you've got to find the opposite end to where the knot was, and that's why I make the knots really big, because then you can get hold of them and pull them really easily. find the opposite end to the knot, pull out the overstitch that secures the hexagon, and then out comes the thread really easily. Really easily. I've been looking forward to this day more than I can possibly tell you, because I know that it's a beautiful day, the sun's streaming through the windows, and I know that I'm going to really enjoy working my way round this quilt and remembering all the little fabrics that I chose. So many different beautiful fabrics. And when you started a project 2 years ago, it's really nice to sort of look very closely at the at each of these little choices that I made way back then. Quite a lot of these are from the K Facette range, which is Brandon Mabley and Philip Jacobs as well, those three designed together, and quite a lot of them are from there. And when I was running out of variety from my stash, which was it took a long time to run out of variety, but when I bought a charm pack, maybe 1 or 2 charm packs, because then you can cut the charm packs in 4, because this hexagon is an inch hexagon. You measure it along that side. I know I've told you all this before, but you can get 4 of the hexagons you need from 1 charm square. So if a charm pack's got 25 charms in it, there's 100 more templates for your quilt. Now, of course, coming next is the quilting of this and how I'm going to do that, but and the finishing of it, all of that. But then Anna and I were talking about this the other day. We've so enjoyed seeing this on the back wall. It's been there on and off the back wall for such a long time. And I'm now thinking that I'm going to have another long-term project like this one to replace it, because I'm going to really miss it. So I've been looking on Instagram and Pinterest for my next inspiration for a hand-pieced quilt, whatever that might be. And I have a few ideas. So there will be another one that takes this one's place. What? What? I'm not getting... Were you filming that? Well, it's many hours later. In fact, it's the next day, and it's just after lunch, and this box is full of all the templates that have come out, and this jar is full of all the threads that have come out. I really like this little jar because each one of those represents one of these that's been basted over the last couple of years and now removed. I've taken all of them out except for the ones all the way around the edges. As I explained, I'm going to turn those under, give them a really good pressing, and then stitch the borders to them. So the next time I make a video about this project, I'll be doing the borders and making the quilt sandwich and getting the whole thing ready to hand quilt. As I've been taking the papers out, I've been thinking about how I want to do that. So there it is on my clean, newly covered design board. Can you see all of it there? I'll just tip the camera around so you can see all the way to the end. There we go. That fills the camera, I think. And yeah, next video, whenever that's going to be, will be the hand quilting of this quilt. So I'm tired now. My fingers are sore here from pinching all those threads out, but it's done now, and I'm very pleased. If you've enjoyed watching this video, then give me a thumbs up and think about subscribing if you haven't done so already, and hit the notifications bell so you won't miss any time that I post about anything that I'm doing here at the Last Homely House. I have playlists, and I'll put a playlist on the end card that's going to come in a moment, which will be all about this project, English paper pieced Agnes's quilt. And then over on Patreon there's plenty of extra content, and I'm just getting ready to publish my monthly roundup of all the behind the scenes things here at the Last Homely House that I put out at the end of each month for everybody who's on the $5 tier. So check that out. There'll be a link to that on the end card as well, and it's always in the description below. So I'm gonna go and I think I might go and do some gardening and get my hands into something completely different now. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch up with you soon. Oh, by the way, if you were wondering how many hexagons there are, I counted them all up. 753. Were you close?